Hello everybody, good afternoon and welcome to the United Stand. This is our reaction to Ralf Rangnick's press conference for the Brentford game on Monday, but really not a lot about Brentford, a lot about a lot of other things. Jadon Sancho could well be out for the season for Manchester United in a huge blow. Ralf Rangnick delivers a demand to Manchester United to help Erik ten Hag get better, essentially buy better players, and he speaks about why United have failed and the sort of players they should be bringing into the club. There's also numerous outlets saying that Ralf Rangnick won't be here as a consultant. He will be moved on by United. Is that true? We'll also have discussions about Calvin Phillips. There's a development around that and lots of other things that Ralf Rangnick's spoken about. A few things I liked: mentality and character, recruitment and coaching. All these things are key. What a great question he was asked as well about. His answer was great actually. He was asked about whether Juan Mata, Nemanja Matic, Jesse Lingard, whether they'll play on Monday because it's their last game at Old Trafford before they leave. He said, "I'd love to do that. I'd love to give them a farewell, but I'm here to win a game of football. I can't be about sentiment," which is absolutely spot on. So loads to get into. First thing I just want to say as well, I think most of you have picked up on this. I've seen you mention it a lot, but it's never probably had a bit of a headline. And the headline I just want to drop in there is that Marcus Rashford, Edison Cavani, Mason Greenwood, Anthony Martial, 4 of our 6 forwards pissed off in January for very different reasons. I'm not saying they did it on purpose. Form, arrested, injured, loan. We've been left with Ronaldo and Sancho, and he's recruited Alanga in from the youth setup. That's what Ralf Rangnick has had since the back end of January. Ronaldo, Sancho and Alanga. That's it. That's it. So just keep... I'm not going to say anything more. I'm just saying, tell me I'm wrong. He's lost 4 forwards that Ollie had for the first half of the season. And, you know, they didn't bring anybody in. They haven't helped him out with it. And I think these things do matter. They didn't bring him a midfielder in either. There we go. Right, let's just have a quick chat about the game on Monday, and then we're going to delve into some of the really deep stuff that Rangnick spoke about signings, his consultancy role, Erik ten Hag. Really good, honest opinion from Rangnick to get our teeth in. But I suppose the most interesting thing about the Brentford press conference in relation to the Brentford game was, are any players going to be back for the game on Monday? He said Fred could be back. He was very close to being back for the Chelsea game, so Fred being back is a good thing because, you know, McTominay or Matic get injured or tired and we've got nobody. So Fred being back on Monday is really helpful, even if it's just for the bench. He said Jadon Sancho might be out for the season. He'll certainly be out for the next 2 games. I mean, that's amazing. He's got tonsillitis and he could be out for 3 weeks because that's how long it is till the Palace game. But he said he's suffering. He's had high temperatures, inflammation. He may even have to have his tonsils out. That was even queried. So he's out. Cavani could be back, but Rangnick said he hasn't played for 5 weeks. So whether he can be involved in the Brentford game, who knows? And he said it's a question mark about people like Maguire and Jesse. But really, it's forwards we need. We could do with Lingard being back, to be honest. Because I'd start Lingard over Rashford at the moment. But the problem with Sancho being out is that, I go back to it again, we've only got Alanga, Rashford and Ronaldo who can play that game. Because we don't have any other options. And there's no way Rashford should start that game. So he will start because there's nobody else. Elon Musk to buy the club. What do you think, Mark? I'd love it, Trevor Eaton. I don't think it will happen. I don't think it'll happen at all. So yes, Jadon Sancho could be out the season. Fred could be back. We'll have to wait and see. I mean, personally, maybe you find a place for Mata. You could put Mata at number 10 and play Brunel. I mean, basically against Brentford, we could play Mata. We could play Mata from the start. I think Mata. I mean, I'll do my preview tomorrow, but I would start Mata. I'd start Mata, Alanga, Ronaldo, Bruno as your attacking options, and then maybe you play McTominay. And Fred or Matic, whatever. But we'll see. Anyway, let's delve into it. So, first question, he was asked about the consultant role. This was a good question, actually. He said, what will your consultant role entail? What is it you're actually going to be doing at Manchester United? And he said, well, you know, is it going to be European expertise? And he said, so this is what Rangnick's going to be doing. My most important bit is recruitment. To get the best possible players, to find out who that could be, meeting them, convincing them, and also to develop the academy. He said, look, in Mason Greenwood, we had one of the best players in young football. It's really important that I'm involved in that over the next 2 years, developing the academy, but also recruiting players, meeting players. So I think that's a bit of clarity that many people would have predicted was going to be the case anyway. But he was asked about his consultancy role and what it's going to be, and effectively he is going to be there for recruitment, which is great news because this is what Rangnick did with the Red Bull group, whether it's Salzburg, I forget the name of the American club, but certainly with Leipzig. So I'm happy about that. I think that's very important. And look, I'll bring it in here. I think ESPN, Mark Ogden, Manchester Evening News, Jan Arge-Fjordhoff, they've spoken about it a little bit as well. That, is it good to have Rangnick as a consultant? Yes, it is. Do they think he'll be the consultant? No, they don't. There's a few journalists in the UK and beyond who are sort of hinting that Rangnick won't even be the consultant. The club will get rid of him. Well, I'm just going to say this right here, right now. If United are going to get rid of Rangnick when he's not even done the job we wanted him to do, that's just bloody ridiculous. Whatever you think about Rangnick as the manager, and as I said, there's been mitigating circumstances with players downing tools, not having any forwards, not having a midfielder brought in. All these things that we predicted would be problems have become problems. But the whole point of bringing Ralf Rangnick to Manchester United was to help restructure the club. To get rid of him when he's not even gone into the role that we brought him for would be absolutely ridiculous. But as I said, I think the most important thing here is that Ralf Rangnick has made it very clear that he wants to be the consultant of Manchester United. He wants to help rebuild Manchester United, and that's the job he's going to do. The club have said they want him to do it as well. If he isn't doing it, we know the club got rid of him, which would be amateurish on the part of the club. And actually, Ralf Rangnick was asked in the press conference that Mourinho finished second, he was sacked by Christmas. Ollie finished second, he was sacked by Christmas. What's going wrong at the club? Why is that happening? And he said, look, I don't know why they were sacked. I didn't sack them. But he said it's very obvious that there are problems that need to be solved in the club. But it's also important to be positive. Erik ten Hag is one of the best managers in Europe who plays a very good style of football. We've got a top coach coming in. And really, the job now is about recruitment and coaching together. And that'll equal a different team that the fans can be proud of with mentality, quality, physicality. And I think that was a very good, honest answer from Ralf Rangnick again, because he's right. We are recruiting a good coach, and if we recruit a good coach and recruit good players, this will make Manchester United gradually better. Mark, give young Garnacho a go, maybe more than 2 minutes. He's quality, says Andy and Bruno. I think at home against Brentford, you probably could do that. I think at home against Chelsea, it's a very difficult game to throw a youngster in, but we can talk about that on the preview. And he was also asked about bad recruitment as well. There were really good questions today. They said, look, recruitment's been bad at Manchester United for 10 years, and it's the same people doing the recruitment 10 years later. Can you understand why the fans would be concerned about that? And he said, look, ultimately, people are going to have concerns, but it's obvious that the club need a lot of new players. There's the reason for that is there's a lot of players out of contract, there's a lot of people on loan, there's a lot of people who want to leave the club. So it's very important that when they're bringing a lot of these players in, that they are recruiting the right quality of player. And I think that was a bit of a politician's answer by Rangnick, but he is absolutely spot on. There has been a lot of mistakes. The next question actually was, do you think the club should be recruiting ready-made players or up-and-coming players? Because if you bring up-and-coming players in and they don't know the enormity of the club and the task and the pressure, could they wilt under that pressure? Do you need to bring ready-made players in? This answer was brilliant from Ralf Rangnick, and he got some really good... I think the quality of questioning in the press conference has gone up with the quality of the answers. I used to lose... I mean, how stressed did I used to get after Ole Gunnar Solskjaer press conferences? I'd be like, the questions are rubbish, the answers are formulaic. I think that Rangnick's answers have been so good that the journalists are now doing their job and asking good questions that never have been asked of managers under the Ollie era. Because, you know, what was it? They ask him about tactics and he'd go, "Well, I could talk to you about tactics all day, but have you seen the weather?" Like, he wouldn't talk to you about tactics at all. So we're getting better questions. He was asked about, you know, whether we should be going for ready-made or up and coming players. The answer's brilliant from Rangnick. He said, "Look at the other top clubs." Look at the other top clubs and who they are signing, and there is your answer. And that was it. And it was left for you to... It's like watching the end of a film that's left open. You're like, did they die? Did they not die? Did they marry a sheep? I don't know. You don't know what happens at the end of that film. And I love that Ralf Rangnick is so good in these answering of questions now that he's leaving open answers that he's educating us. He's not even giving you the answer. He's going, go and get the answer yourself because it's an obvious answer, and he's right. When asked about whether we should be buying established players like Ronaldo and Varane or bringing up-and-coming players in, you know, like, I don't know, your Tchouameni's, etc., he's saying, well, go and look at the top clubs. And by top clubs, he means the Bayern Munichs of Germany, he means the PSGs of France, he means Liverpool's and Man City's and Chelsea's, and he means Real Madrid's, Barcelona's. Go and look at those clubs and what are they recruiting? Well, look, I knew the answer straight away. You know the answer straight away. Look at Bayern Munich. They're going for Gravenberg. They're going for the Ajax winger. They're looking at Timber. So they're recruiting young and up-and-coming players into a big club. Real Madrid, in the last year alone, they've brought in Camavinga. They want Mbappe. They want Haaland. Manchester City, they're bringing in Alvarez, who's a young player from Argentina. They've brought in younger players in the past. Liverpool, Konate's a relatively young centre-back. Diaz, I don't know how old he is, but the point is, these big clubs are not signing Lewandowski. They're not signing... Well, they might do, but they're not going for established players. Klopp is looking at players that he can take from good to very good, or from very good to world class, or from good to world class. Pep's looking at the same. They are looking at developing players, and this is the dangerous thing about the future of football. The Bayern Munichs, the Liverpools, the Real Madrids, the Man Cities, they're not recruiting players who are 29, 30 and building a team for 2 years. They're building a team that could be playing together for 6, 7, 8 years. So there is the answer, and Ralf Rangnick's absolutely spot on. When Ralf is leaving, I'll hear it from him. He says he's going to be a consultant, so that's what I'm working with. I love Ralf because only being honest with us, says Milverton. Thanks for the super chat. We should have kept Martial and sold Cavani in January, says Ishmael. Of course, the problem with Martial was that he didn't want to stay. Ralf Rangnick has said it, that he wanted him to stay and he didn't want to. Mark, do you think we will see Rashford or Martial in the United shirt next season? Rashford's going nowhere, Darshan. But he needs to take a long, hard look in the mirror. He really does. I definitely think that. Oh, can I just give a shout out? I don't normally do this, but I am on Twitch at 3 o'clock today. I've got my Champions League semi-final. Manchester United against Real Madrid. My first season as Man United manager. We're doing terrible in the league, but somehow we've battled it in to the semi-finals with a broken controller. I'm hoping to get a new controller delivered. They said it was going to be here by 4. I might be playing with the broken one, which could get further broken. So I've dropped the link in the description for my Twitch channel. Please do hit it and give me a follow. I'll be live at 3. Even if you've never watched it before, it'd just be nice to have a bit of support, get a bit of a crowd. I love Ralf. As fans, owe him a lot. He's the turning point for getting back to where we should be. His honesty has given the club no choice but to act, says Sean Turner. He's done a great job, Sean, and thank you very much for the super chat there. He has done a great job. I mean, there's more to come. And don't forget tonight, 8 o'clock Friday night show is always a bit more of a relaxed Q&A show. I might even open a couple of tinnies, so I'm looking forward to that tonight. Stick Drift FC, let's go, says Matthew McFadden. If you know, you know. Stick Drift. If you say that too fast or you've had a few drinks, you'll be saying something a little bit different. And it does mean a problem with your controller, not anywhere else. So, yes, brilliant answer. Look at the top clubs and who they're recruiting when you're thinking about whether you need to buy established stars or up-and-coming stars. We've still got to talk about this Phillips story as well. So we spoke about the consultant role. Next thing, I'm just going to go down the topics because they were all very good today. He was asked about whether, because it's their last game, Mata, Matic and Lingard, whether they will start because it's their last game at Old Trafford. He said, look, I need the best possible result. I need to put the team out for the best possible result. It's not about gifts to players. It's not about saying farewell. It'd be nice to do it if we can do, but we need to win. Brilliant answer. He's not there to bloody give out gifts or anything like that. Do you think finally having some good coaching can turn Rashford around, says Kana? I mean, top content, Mark, love from Northern Ireland, says Bobby. Thank you very much, Bobby. I mean, just going back to what Kana Dave is saying there, do you think good coaching can get the best out of Marcus Rashford? I mean, I almost want to bang the table, but I feel like positive and quite calm. But, I mean, who does he think he is? Who do you think you are? I mean, I'm not saying that in an accusing way. I'm just saying in a general way. Why is he getting the excuse of, let's see what happens with Rashford under Eric Ten Hag? We saw last night, we saw in the Manchester derby, it's not about talent. It's about literally tracking a player. That's not talent. That's not a little step over or a shot into the top corner from 40 yards. I mean, that's another problem completely, whether he's lost his ability to do that. But what he has done, and you don't need to be coached, I could stand on the touchline, Ronaldo did it, Varane did it, I can shout at Rashford to track Reece James, but if he doesn't do it, that's not about coaching, that's about why didn't you do it last night? Why, in a big game for Manchester United, are you not tracking people back? Why didn't you do it at the Etihad? Why didn't you do it against Chelsea last night? That's not about coaching, that's about an issue that goes beyond coaching. That's about what the hell do you think you're doing? Why are you not doing your job? The whole world saw it. Gary Neville's a huge fan of Marcus Rashford and he's calling him out on national TV. That's nothing to do with coaching. That's something else. I don't know what the reason is. Alanga's doing it on the other side. And he's not doing it. I don't know what that's all about. I really don't know. So I'm not going to give him the excuse of better coaching, because better coaching isn't about not doing your job that you're being told to do, like you was last night. Mark, be honest, mate. You've thrown the controller at the wall when game pisses you off. Andy and Bruno probably have. I had to ask about that. Anyway, so he's asked about that. This was another question about recruitment. He was asked, do you need to be buying younger do Manchester United need to be buying younger players because they've been buying a lot of players that are over the hill? And is that because they can't attract younger players? So I don't think this was a great question, really, but the gist of it was, can United still attract younger players? Because they seem to be buying a lot of players coming towards the end of their career, like Ronaldo, Cavani, maybe Varane. Rangnick answers it in a good way, but I don't think it's a great question, because actually it's not necessarily easy to bring a Varane or a Ronaldo or a Cavani to Manchester United more than it is to bring a young and up-and-coming player. It might be cheaper, it might be more expensive, there might be more competition, there might not be. I mean, in the circumstances, I don't think anybody else wanted Cavani, so there was no competition, but we bloody paid a lot of money for it. With Varane, I think there was competition and it was a good deal. With Ronaldo, maybe there wasn't any competition, and there was Man City. So I think it's a bit of a mixed bag. I don't think we can just say we're buying players over the hill and that nobody else wants, because people did want Ronaldo, they did want Varane. Admittedly, with Cavani, I don't think there was anybody else in the race. But Rangnick said, look, my opinion on this is that the club should buy top talents coming through. Someone like Erling Haaland, he's 21, he's 22, he's one of the most expensive players in the world at the moment, and he's a fantastic talent. The focus should be on that type of player and convincing them to come to Manchester United. I don't think Ralf Rangnick's made any secret of the fact that he does want to bring in that type of player. So that journalist probably tailored a good question to Rangnick. I think if you said to Rangnick, do you want to bring in Adeyemi from Salzburg, or do you want to bring Cavani in on a free at 34, he's going to go for Adeyemi. Because Cavani might do a job for you for 1 year like he did for us, but the year 2, he's injured, he's not there. Adeyemi might not do a great job in year 1, but in year 2, 3, 4, you get a player that does do a better job that you can then sell or keep for many years. So Ralf Rangnick is always been the sort of coach that wants to buy people who are going for their first or second contract. United have been going for players, yes, admittedly, who are going for contract 3, 4, 5. So Ralf Rangnick is unashamedly going to be pro bringing players through. But this is why we need to utilise Ralf Rangnick, because it's one thing to say, all right, let's not chuck silly money at people like Cavani anymore. Let's go and get the next Cavani, which I suppose probably is Darwin Núñez, but everybody wants him at the moment. But I think where Ralf Rangnick will become really valuable is that it's very obvious if you want a striker this summer, Darwin Núñez, Arsenal, Atletico Madrid, Manchester United, lots of clubs are looking at him. But the genius of Ralf Rangnick is he will have the ability to go, well, look at this player from Austria, look at this player from Germany, look at this player from Brazil, look at this player from wherever else. And I think that is why Ralf Rangnick's consultancy role is so important. And when he was asked about his consultancy role in the press conference today, he literally said, my job, my most important role is recruitment. It's about getting the best possible players, who those players could be, meeting them and convincing them to come to this club. And I repeat that sentence for a very big reason. Casey Jones says the genius of Ralf. Well, mate, if you don't want to educate yourself on Ralf Rangnick, that's not my problem. You're not drawing me in, and no one's going to laugh at your genius of Ralf quotation and your little laughing face, because you clearly don't understand football, mate. Because Ralf Rangnick has built football clubs. We're not talking about the genius of Ralf as a manager. We're talking about the genius of Ralf as a builder of football clubs, as a recruiter of talent. And I'm sorry, when you look at that, he is one of the best in Europe at doing that. If you don't want to educate yourself on that, go and do your little smiley faces, because no one else ain't laughing. Hi Mark, assuming we sign a proper CDM, do you think Donny could work as the CDM next season, or will Ericsson have him as a cam, says Daniel Hodgson? I'm interested to see what happens with Donny van der Beek. I do believe it's almost like a new signing because of Ten Hag and their previous relationship. And since Ralf would be an Austrian manager, he could help United with recruitment by eyeing up some Austrian talent, says AR15. But no, I think that with Ralf Rangnick, he will be able to do that anyway. And as I said, what he said about his consultancy role is the most important thing for him is that he is meeting, identifying, convincing players to come to Manchester United. Well, we already know the profile of player that he wants and thinks United should be buying as well. So the exciting thing about Rangnick is God knows what players he thinks are going to be the next big players. But you look at players that were recruited by Leipzig or other clubs that he's been involved in, and it's very exciting as to who we might end up bringing in. He might be aware of players that, none of us are going to do transfer shows on at the moment until we get linked to them. And what I mean by that is there could be a 20-year-old somewhere in Europe that no one's really looking at, that Rangnick and his connections are saying this player is going to be really, really good. It could be Lehmer from Leipzig. It could be whoever. And I think that the interesting thing is, I do think United might have gone for Adeyemi if we hadn't snoozed on the deal a little bit. I think Dortmund are just way ahead of that on that Adeyemi deal. I think he's going to be announced in the next couple of weeks. But I do think it's a player that maybe if we'd have been a bit quicker, we might have gone for someone like Adeyemi from Salzburg. But we will see. But I'm very, very, very excited about the prospect of Rangnick talking about these up-and-coming players that we need to recruit. He knows we need to recruit a lot of players, and he's going to be involved in that process with Erik ten Hag and the rest of Manchester United. He was asked about, does he think Manchester United is still an attractive club for players to come to? And he said, look, yeah, as a club, the infrastructure, the fans, this is still a very big club and it will have a big draw. But you've got to be realistic. When Liverpool or Man City or Chelsea knock on the door, they're more attractive. So we must work hard to convince those players. And the way to do that is that Jurgen Klopp, Thomas Tuchel, when a player's thinking about coming to Liverpool or Chelsea, they will meet them, they will convince them, they will tell them what the project is. We need to do that as well. And we need to be good at that. And we need to be able to convince them that Manchester United is the right place to be. And again, it's just a really good answer from Ralf Rangnick, because somebody says, and I hear some of you talk about this as well a lot, can United still recruit good players? And I think Ralf Rangnick's answer there is probably what we've discussed on here for the last 3-4 years whenever this comes up. United is a huge club, got a great fan base, a great football club, a great history. We are a big club. Whether people think it's funny that we have to use the word history or not, I always used to say about Liverpool, they never used to win the league, but they were still a big club because of their history and the size of their fan base, etc. So United are in a very similar situation. But if we want Tchouaméni and Liverpool and Man City want Tchouaméni, we're probably third in the race because we can afford him. We have a very, very big football club for him to come and join. We're attractive, but Liverpool and Man City can say, yeah, we're fighting for Premier Leagues and Champions Leagues every year. They're in the Conference League or the Europa League, so come to here. And what Rangnick's saying is, look, you can either put your hands up and quit and say, look, we can't get those sort of players, or you get the player to come and meet Erik ten Hag to discuss the future, to discuss where we're going, and you try and convince them that way. And you might win, you might lose, but you've got to do it differently. I don't think United, you go back to that, what is now being labelled the worst summer in Man United's last decade, where you spend £150 million, but you spend it on Wan-Bissaka, Maguire and Dan James. I mean, that's enough to give you nightmares, isn't it? But I think that summer happened because Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was in charge. And you were not going to ring up someone like, I mean, I know he wasn't available at that time, but you're not going to get Tchouaméni or someone coming over to United speaking to Ole and thinking, yeah, this is where I want to be. And that's what United need. And with Erik ten Hag, we do have a manager that knows the game very well and may well be able to attract some of these players in. And that's what Ralf Rangnick's talking about. And I do think it's really important that we are better at recruiting, because it is about the project. And also the other side of it, and Rangnick said this as well, the important thing about the manager meeting the players, convincing the players, is that when they're having that meeting, the manager can then understand, and he mentioned this as well, the manager also needs to speak to the player to understand if they've got the mentality and the character for what is required. Now, that could be a real throwaway comment about, well, yeah, manager needs to meet the player to understand whether their mentality and character is right. But I actually think it's an indirect at this current squad that some of these players have been recruited and they've not been recruited properly. How deep over the last 3 years in our recruitment did we dive into the mentality and character of players? Now, I heard, I've always been a fan of Wan-Bissaka, but I was listening to I think it was the Manchester Evening News podcast a couple of weeks ago, and they were talking about the right back, and they were saying that United searched, I mean, I don't know what the number is, but a lot of right backs before they decided on Wan-Bissaka. And I think it was Luckhurst on the podcast was saying that that Wan-Bissaka just doesn't seem to have the character for Manchester United, and yet they search so many right backs. Now that's just an observation. That's one person's opinion. He may have information on that. I don't know, but it is important, and I don't know whether United managers over the last 3 years have met these players before they've been signed properly and understood what they're all about, or have we just been grateful that they want to come to the club? And what Rangnick's saying is you've got to meet these players and understand these players and understand their mentality and their character, because you can buy a superstar player, but if they've got a bad character or a bad mentality, then they're not going to be a superstar player, which is what we've seen over the last few weeks and months of this season with our club. Could you help me to shout out my brother? His name is Sakil. This is for his birthday, says AR. Happy birthday to Sakil from your brother. There you go. Hope you're watching, pal. Otherwise, it's falling on deaf ears. And yeah, that's basically everything Rangnick said in the press conference. Before we talk about Calvin Phillips very quickly. So yeah, look, a really good press conference again. I wasn't actually expecting it to be so good, because I know it was recorded straight after the Chelsea game last night, because that's what happens when you play Thursday night football. So get used to it next season. Our game on the Sunday, Ten Hag will be doing his press conference for it after the game on the Thursday. So you don't normally get a good one, but Rangnick is just so full of answers and honesty that, look, I think the big takeaways for me are recruitment. He's going to be involved in the recruitment, and he completely understands the recruitment. And I don't think he will take it as a... Basically, we're in a worse position. My takeaway from it is this. We are in a worse position from that worst summer. And what I mean by that is, go back to that summer, 150 million quid handed to Ollie. We buy Maguire, James and Wan-Bissaka. 150 million's gone, and you go, how? How have we done that? Well, we did. But I think the club was in a better position then, because Ollie'd only just got the job, and you know, this season's worse than that season. So I think we're in a worse position now, but I think we'll have a much better summer. And the reason I think we'll have a better summer is because that was a crap £150 million spend. Absolutely rubbish. We didn't even leave the British Isles with that 150 million quid. There was no passport required. It was completely and utterly UK specific 150 million quid spent. We won't be doing that this year. And also, with Rangnick involved, we've got somebody who has a wide experience and depth of knowledge into the European transfer market, and I think we're going to have a much better transfer window than we did then, when we were in a better position then. So look, I'm confident that with United working with Murta and Rangnick and Ten Hag, and maybe we get Paul Mitchell in as well, I think we've got a really good opportunity to get this season done and have a really positive transfer window. And Rangnick is saying all the right things about the type of player that we need to bring in. We need some hungry players with talent, and we need a lot of them, and we need to clear the deadwood. I think if they get the formula right, they can get any player, and hopefully the right player, says Dominic, says Carbon. Yeah, look, we're not going to get Erling Haaland. We're not going to get Kylian Mbappe. We're not going to get Declan Rice. Those sort of players are not the sort of player that we can go for. But you know what? Let's spin a positive. They're not the right player for us anyway. Spending 150 million as a package on Erling Haaland isn't the right move for us at the moment. We need a complete rebuild. Mbappe and all the wages he will cost, we need a complete rebuild. Declan Rice, 100 million quid. No, we need a complete rebuild. Harry Kane, 100 million quid. No, we need a complete rebuild. We're not ready for those icing on the cake signings. Whether we can attract them or not, we're not. So we may as well ignore that and not be concerned if Rice goes to City or Kane goes wherever or Haaland goes to City. You know, that's not where we're at the moment. I think every United fan I speak to and read about is that I can hear the excitement in your voices, Ozzy. I am excited. I genuinely am. I feel something's going to change at United. I feel that Ten Hag is the right man. I'm excited that Rangnick's going to stay and be involved exclusively in recruitment. I do think we can get Mitchell in. I think Murta is definitely doing better. I think Richard Arnold as a CEO seems to be giving more responsibility to the football side than Woodward ever did. We've got 3 games where if we can get 2 wins, we'll be in the Europa League, and I think that's something Ten Hag will definitely take. We're going to have a massive summer. You know, basically after that Palace game, we can just shut this season down. All we need to do is get 6 points from 9, get into the Europa League and shut this season down, because it's been shit. It's been horrible. It really has, and the fans have suffered really badly in a footballing sense. And these players have let us down. But there is a positive future, and I think Ten Hag senses that. I think Rangnick senses that. And the club need to allow it. There can be nobody at Manchester United who sits there and goes, You're only buying 2 players because you've got a good enough squad. I don't think even United think that anymore. I think United board look at it and know that these players have let the badge down, and we need a complete rebuild. And Rangnick's been very, very open about that. It's going to cost money, but if we get it right, it won't cost a lot of money in 3 years' time. United need to break the cycle. Every 3 years, we bring a manager in, he does reasonably well, we spend a lot of money to get in the Champions League, they finish second place, they get the sack, and then it starts again. This time, there'll be initial outlay. There will be an initial outlay over the next 2 years of about 200-300 million quid. Definitely, it's needed. But years 3-4, hopefully, we won't need to spend another 150 million quid, because we'll have built that squad that is then sustainable, and you're just adding little bits to it. So, yeah, I am excited. I did mention Calvin Phillips. I must mention Calvin Phillips. So, Calvin Phillips is still, appears to be at the moment, the favourite CDM option for Manchester United. Declan Rice is out of reach. Tchouaméni looks like he's going to go elsewhere. So Calvin Phillips has become the new favourite. Now Leeds, this is according to the Manchester Evening News, Leeds, and Samuel Luckhurst, who always seems to be quite well briefed on this, he said that Leeds are confident that nobody will pay £60 million for him. So he might leave at some point, but they think they will keep him next season. However, he is looking for a new agent, which may indicate he's looking for a move. I think in relation to Calvin Phillips, £60 million is way too much. Keevan says he'd take Phillips. I know we'd take Phillips. I read something yesterday, and I sort of agree with it. I've been looking at Calvin Phillips quite a lot over the last 2 weeks. In fact, there's a video that mentions him on the Members Club. Check it out if you're a member. And I think that with regards to Phillips, somebody said he's basically just a better Fred. He basically is just a better Fred. He's very tenacious. He goes after the ball, but his passing range and first touch are better. How much better than Fred is he? Well, look, Fred's not far off being a really good player. He does play for Brazil. He can be good for us. But Fred's limitations is sometimes his passing is abysmal and his first touch is abysmal. So being a better Fred isn't an insult, because Fred's not that far off. He's never going to be that. He's never going to get there, but I don't think he's that far off being a really useful first-team player in a top-6 side. And he sometimes still is a very useful player in a top-6 side. I think more of a bench player for me, if you want to make progression. So there's nothing wrong with Phillips. He might be a good player for us, but he's not a 60 million signing. We can't spend 60 million on Calvin Phillips because we spent 74 million on Jadon Sancho. He can't go 14 million. He can't be 14 million pounds off a Sancho signing. That's just ridiculous. So Leeds might be right. If Leeds are setting the price at 60 million, it's a very, very big test for United, because some of our fans will say just pay it. I'm going to say don't pay it. Don't pay 60 million on Phillips. For 40 million, you could push for Neves. You could push for Bissouma. And he ain't worth 60 million. I mean, any player's worth what anyone's willing to pay, but we've got to learn from those mistakes of the past. 50 million for Wan-Bissaka was too much. 80 million pounds for Harry Maguire was too much. And look what happened. You can't make another risk on another English player overpaying and hoping it works out. And also, is he 27 this year? 60 million? I just don't think we need to pay that. I think 50 million is too much as well, but you can't pay 60 million. So let's wait and see what happens with it. Ronaldo is our boy. He's a club legend. End of, says Andy and Bruno. Okay. Neves for 100 million. Yeah, they can get out with that. I don't think United are in for Bissouma. I was having a chat with somebody on a group chat today, and they said that Bissouma's fell off. I don't want him. Aston Villa have fell off. Brighton have fell off. It happens every year. Teams that aren't going to go down and aren't going to get into Europe, they fall off. Southampton do it as well. So Brighton were brilliant for a long part of this season. And let's not forget, it was only a couple of weeks ago they went and beat Arsenal and Spurs away, and he played in both those games. So there's nothing wrong with Bissouma. I think Brighton in general have fell off. I think that Cucurella's brilliant at left wing back. Obviously Lamptey as well. But they have gone up and down very recently because their season, they weren't going to get in the top 6 into Europe, and they're not going to get relegated. So Brighton have fell off a bit, but so are Villa. Villa are a good team. They fell off. So I don't think that's a reason not to go for Bissouma, to be honest. Won't Phillips' price go down if Leeds get relegated to Toby MUFC? Well, yes. That's the big thing. I mean, I think we'd all like to see Leeds get relegated anyway, and if they do get relegated, his price does come down. So we'll see what happens. And look, if you're buying Calvin Phillips for 45 million because Leeds have been relegated, that's the sort of signing we probably should be making, because Liverpool aren't going to buy Calvin Phillips. Man City aren't going to buy Calvin Phillips. Chelsea aren't going to sign Calvin Phillips. So we haven't got that competition for clubs that might win. Arsenal might be interested. Spurs might be interested. West Ham might be interested. But you'd fancy us to be able to fight and win that battle. So we'll see. We'll see. Anyway, let's see what happens. Got a big show for you at 8 o'clock tonight. The big show. No, it's just an 8 o'clock show where it's a lot more interactive. So I'm looking forward to it. So make sure you smash a like on the video. We're only one away from 1,000 likes. Thanks, everyone. Really good press conference from Rangnick. He deserves a like on the video just for his answers. They were brilliant. I hope you've enjoyed me summarising them. I think I did get it verbatim, more or less. So very excited about Rangnick. Hopefully he is going to stay. I think he will do. I think United have to keep him. And we will see. We will see what happens. But yeah, it's a blow. No Sancho on Monday. I mean, you can't start Rashford, but he might have to. He doesn't deserve to start again this season, really. But he might have to. And I'll repeat what I said at the start. Rashford, Greenwood, Cavani, Martial. We had a front six that included those four and Ronaldo and Sancho. And since the end of January, Rangnick's had to do it with Sancho and Ronaldo because the other four, for different reasons, are pissed off. Don't forget that, because it's hard. It's very hard when you lose those options. Maguire to Tesco, says Brutos. Okay. Yeah, 8 o'clock tonight. Make sure you tune in. Please smash a like on the video and subscribe. Thanks to all our members. Do check out the new video on the members exclusive page, which is just the homepage. You'll see it there. A new video on Nunez, deep diving into his stats. Thank you everyone for your support. United fans need to trust the progress and back their manager, clear out the dead wood like Arsenal did, then begin the recruiting, says Spilly. Oh, I think it's a very good point. I've also dropped the link in the video description for Twitch. I'm going to be live there in 20 minutes. I think I'm going to be doing it with my old controller. I'm praying that Amazon are going to deliver my new one, but I don't think it's going to happen in time. So Champions League semi-final against Real Madrid with the old controller. I don't know about this. 3 o'clock. Tune in and give me some support. Twitch link in the description. Give us a follow and you'll get your notification, or I'll tweet it out on @MarkGoldbridge anyway. Thanks everyone. Take care. Bit of positivity is always a good thing. I'll speak to you in a bit. Thanks for watching.